Espeon, a Psychic type. Now, no need to talk about evolution because it's already fully evolved. I'm noting its starting moveset. It's going to seem kind of silly at first, but just trust me on this. Starting movesets are actually quite important in Colosseum. It'll become apparent why a bit later. But what's more important here is how Espeon actually performs, which is, it is a very fast special attacker. It's going to be doing a lot of damage with moves like Infusion, like what I'm using right here. And Espeon actually has the highest special attack of any Johto Pokemon, period. So, you got yourself a really solid starter Pokemon right here. Espeon is always gender-locked into being male, so anyone calling me out saying the gender ratio is a mistake, it is not in this particular game. So, very fast, gonna do a lot of damage. Counterpart Umbreon is the complete and total opposite. It's good at taking hits, but will not be dishing out much damage. It's kind of a shame because it doesn't really get too many moves to support its playstyle. It's good at taking hits, don't get me wrong, but I find a lot of the turns it just uses Bite because it has like better to do. There are good moves you can teach it, and I will be getting into them later on, but for the time being, Umbreon doesn't have too much of a use in the team. What is nice, however, is that they both have Synchronized for their abilities, so if an opponent tries to poison you or paralyze you or anything like that, it will do the same to the opponent automatically. It's a passive ability. What is not nice is that they both share a weakness to Bug, and even though you won't be battling many Bug types in the game, that's kind of weak that both of your starter Pokemon have the same weakness. Makuhita, I should explain. Its best stat is HP, unlike most fighting-type Pokemon. And this is also why I'm showing you the moveset ahead of capturing it, is so that you can know what moves a Pokemon is going to have before you get it. It has a very nice move called Cross Chop that is really, really powerful. I caught it already. It's really powerful this early on. However, it's not going to be open to you right away. I'll get into exactly what I mean in a minute, though. If you want something that can take hits, I guess, it's kind of helpful, though. But if you are to catch this, hopefully you get Guts for the ability and not Thick Fat. That's more helpful to two. I do want to warn you, however, even though this Makuhita is level 30 and it would normally evolve, you are incapable of making it level up right away. So if you're trying to get it because you think that, oh my god, I can have this awesome super evolved Pokemon so early in the game, don't get Makuhita for that, because it is not capable of leveling up right away. We're going to be starting off with the Grass-type, Bayleaf. Normally the Grass-type starter is the slowest of the three starters, and will focus on inflicting a bunch of status conditions on your opponent like Poison. Not so in this game. Bayleaf is too high level to get those moves through leveling up, and there is no move relearner in this region. Instead, Bayleaf plays a bit more like a powerhouse character, having Sunny Day in its moveset, which will allow you to use the move Solar Beam every single turn instead of having to charge up for it. So if you can teach it Solar Beam, it can be kind of a fun, spam-happy character. Downside, though, is that Bayleaf is weak to Bug, meaning that if you intend on using one or both of your starter Pokemon, you are going to have a shared weakness right off the bat. And if you intend on using both your Espeon and your Umbreon, you're going to end up with half of your team weak to Bug in a game where you're using a third of your team in battle at any given moment. So that can be quite a nerfing factor that you'll want to keep in mind if you're thinking about grabbing a Bayleaf. The Fire-type starter is actually probably the easiest to use of the three. I say this because it benefits both offensively and defensively from Sunny Day because that boosts fire moves and nerfs water moves. Smokescreen, believe it or not, also is a pretty good move to have in double battles because you can have one Pokemon lower accuracy and the other attack. It's especially good in this particular game because they super stress the fact that you should catch all the Pokemon you can, and Smokescreen will make it a bit less annoying to be sitting in a battle for a long time against some of the harder to catch ones. On top of this, when Quilava is fully evolved, it has identical stats to Charizard, so if you ever used a Charmander back in the days of Red and Blue, you should be able to jump right into using Quilava because he plays almost identically. Also, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that Quilava has Charcoal for its hold item, which boosts the power of fire moves. Croconaw and Bayleaf have their equivalents for their types, which means that if you don't intend on using a Johto starter, you should still pick the one that has the item you want on it, because they will always have these items equipped to them when you snag them. So if you intend on using a grass type later on that is not Bayleaf, and you don't really care about using Quilava or Croconaw, it'd definitely be in your best interest to catch a Bayleaf, because that would be a free Miracle Seed that you can equip to your grass type later on. Kind of a nice little strategy you can do. The water type starter, Croconaw. This is probably the most balanced choice. Water types are fantastic in double battles, especially this one because it has Rain Dance and Surf. Just be forewarned that Rain Dance is in the slot that Shadow Rush occupies, so you won't be able to get it right away. All moves that are in the first slot are not readily obtainable because Shadow Rush takes up that first slot for a while. However, Surf will hit both of your opponent's Pokemon in a double battle, which is always nice. And on top of that, this is prior to the changes that were made that make Surf also hit your ally in battle, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want to pick up Croconaw, it's pretty much got a good spot on any team. Slugma is kind of interesting. It's got the ability to get Flamethrower, which is kind of nice. So if you want to grab that, I suppose you could get it for that. Just be forewarned, the move in the first slot is not always available to you. Right off the bat, and that the move in the fourth slot will take a while to get. So, yeah. Anyway, Slugma is interesting. It's got a sleeping move of Young, which can be kind of nice for people that want to snag a lot of Pokemon, which I'm going to be doing. I already have a Fire type, though, so I don't need it. Plus, I kind of prefer Quilava over Slugma, but yeah, that's kind of Slugma in a nutshell. Very slow, but got some options for some decent moves, I suppose. Noctowl is a bit interesting. This is a flying type, normal flying type to be precise, because there's no such thing as a pure flying type, at least not in this game. It's a bit interesting. It has the HM move Fly, which will make it immune from damage for one turn and then attack the next turn, which can be kind of nice in double battles against the AI. It also has Reflect if you don't want to use your Espeon. It's a nice option for that. And of course, Hypnosis is a great move in a game where they are really stressing for you to catch every Pokemon you can here. So it's pretty versatile. It doesn't have the greatest stats in the world, but remember, Colosseum has limited options, so it might be a good thing for you to pick up if you are looking for a flying type early on, or something that can just use Hypnosis. Anyway, you've probably used a Floppy at one point or another. It's the standard early electric type for Johto, and it's no exception here, as it's probably your earliest option that you would want to grab. Though you might be familiar with it, I will warn you that Floppy is very on the slow side for electric types that are generally fast. So if you're looking for a fast special attacker, Floppy will not come through for you in that department, but it does have some nice moves early on. It's all you're going to find for an electric type for a little while. Skiploom. This is your alternative if you did not snag Bayleaf. This is the other grass type that is available early on. Unfortunately, even though Skiploom has Sleep Powder, which is kind of nice for people that wanted those moves on Bayleaf and were disappointed that Bayleaf didn't get them, pretty much its main draw is that it's fast. But I don't like Skiploom's type. I don't like grass flying. It's very glaring. I mean, I hate being weak to rock when I'm a grass type, and I should be able to take out rocks quite easily. I'm also not too big of a fan of Skiploom's move pool. It's not a terrible Pokemon. I'm pretty sure you can still find use for it. Quagsire, getting into it. It is a very defensive Pokemon. It has one weakness, grass, because it's water and ground, which is a very nice type indeed. A lot of people are a fan of this type, and so am I. Only thing about Quagsire, though, even though it's very defensive, it's great for offense in this game as well because it will get the move Surf just like Croconaw did. So if you didn't pick Croconaw back in Fenac City, this is actually kind of a good Pokemon for you. Aside from that, though, I just would recommend that if you're going to pick one of these up, you make sure it has Water Absorb and not Damp. Damp will only prevent the opponent from using Self-Destruct or Explosion. Water Absorb will make it so that it is healed from being hit by water attacks. It's pretty dang clear which one is going to see more use in general battles. Now, a lot of people don't like Misdreavus and say that it's one of the weakest ghost types. Guess what? Misdreavus is the only ghost type in all of Pokemon Colosseum that you can catch, so if you don't like it and you want a ghost type, you better get used to it! In all seriousness, though, in Colosseum, options are limited, and as a result of that, if you want a ghost type, you might as well grab Misdreavus. Levitate's great to have in a double battle, as you're immune to ground type moves, and Earthquake will hit your ally. In fact, it would complement most ground types quite well. It's also not bad to have for Confuse Ray, should you not want to use Umbreon for that. So, if you're looking to replace your Umbreon with something and you want something that's kind of interesting, I suppose you can grab this. Normally, I would kind of not like the fact that we are catching a Furret. Normally, I would say it's not very good, but remember, this is a game with very limited options, only about 50 Pokemon in this game. Furret is one of very few normal types in Colosseum, one of, I think, 3 or 4, and it's actually not too bad. As you see, its starting moveset has Strength in it, and having Strength, it gets the same type attack bonus, because of course if your move is the same as your type, you do more damage, 1.5 times to be exact. It's actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good to have early on, and I find that it actually does one-hit a lot of stuff very early on, so I would recommend picking this up if you want something like that, even just temporarily. However, I will recommend one thing about picking this thing up. Make sure you don't have Runaway for your ability. I would make sure you have Keen Eye, because every single battle in Colosseum is a trainer battle. So, when everything is a trainer battle, what does Runaway do? Absolutely nothing! Great game design, eh, guys? Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, but for some odd reason, Runaway wasn't given another effect in Colosseum. It is kind of frail. Unfortunately, Yanma does not really evolve in this game. It evolves in later installments of the Pokemon series, and if it did, I would highly recommend it. Yanma, being a bug-flying type, has quite a few weaknesses as well. However, its main draw is the fact that it has speed boost for its ability. The fact that you gain speed at the end of every turn can make it a bit of an appealing choice, especially in a game with limited options. So if you're looking for something kind of fast and you like the ability of speed boost on Ninjask, granted, Yanma will not do the same job as Ninjask, you know, being kind of the swords dance user, but, you know, it's still decent enough. If you, if you want to have a bug type, it's available pretty early on, and speed boost is always a nice ability. It could potentially have Compound Eyes also for its ability, but I would recommend picking up one with Speed Boost more so than Compound Eyes, to be perfectly honest. Remoraid! Okay, so first off, a bit of a warning. Remoraid is a tough Pokemon for me to tell you to get. Now, this is not because it's a bad Pokemon at all. Remoraid is usable in some ways. The reason why I say it's tough to recommend, it starts at level 20. I don't know why they give you a Shadow Pokemon that's level 20 this far into the game. The very first Shadow Pokemon you snag is level 30. Why is it, like, really late into the second town? We have one that's level 20. So, although Remoraid can be kind of a unique water type, it gets some really unique moves like Octazooka that lower accuracy after it evolves. Although it's very unique, it's just, you're gonna have... Putting it bluntly, because Shadow Pokemon can't level up at this point in the game, you aren't going to be able to use this thing. It is useless for a while. It might get useful later on, but you will not want to use this thing right away, is what I'm saying. This is a very useful Pokemon. If you want something that can take special attacks very well, Mantine is your guy. It's got some kind of unfortunate weaknesses, like a quad weakness to Electric and, of course, a weakness to Rock, but hey, Gyarados has that type as well, and... Mantine is a fantastic Pokemon. I like it quite a bit. Only warning about this if you want to pick it up. Even though it makes a pretty good special wall and it's immune to ground types, which is always nice in double battles because that means you can use Earthquake when it's out, this thing has a catch rate of 25. It is the hardest Pokemon to catch as of this point in the game. So this Pokemon will be harder for you to catch than any Pokemon we have seen thus far. So just warning you that you might want to save before this because this is the toughest challenge you have been given as of this point. So, not saying that it's impossible, but yeah, although it's a very good special wall, just be warned that it's very difficult to catch. If you didn't want to use Croconaw or Quagsire, this thing's pretty good. It's more defensive than Quagsire, as I'll say that much, though. It doesn't have as good of a type as Quagsire, but hey, it's still a good Pokemon. Quillfish is actually kind of an interesting Pokemon. It does have Surf, much like Croconaw and Quagsire. Its stats aren't quite as good as Croconaw, and its type is not quite as good as Quagsire. It's not the best of the water types that you can pick up, but it does have Poison Point, meaning that if you physically attack it, it will poison you. If you make physical contact with it, it will poison you, which is nice. It's definitely a Pokemon that is unique out of what you can pick. Again, it's not going to be winning any awards in the way of stats, but it's certainly unique, and people might be drawn into Poison Point. That is Meditite right there! That is a Fighting Psychic type. Now, while it might not be too usable in its current state, when you do get the ability to make Shadow Pokemon level up, it can be actually kind of nice. It's a mixed attacker. It can attack physically and specially and do a decent amount of damage both ways. It also can have pure power for its ability, which will double its attack stat, which is always nice. It's a pretty interesting Pokemon, but regardless of what you are going to do, I highly recommend that you grab that Meditite no matter what. Because when you catch it, it will always have a Twisted Spoon equipped to it. That item will boost the power of Psychic moves. So, if you are using an Espeon, you have no reason to not pick that up because that item is invaluable to you if you equip it to your Espeon. So, that is one of very few Hoenn Pokemon that you can snag in the game. There's not all that many, but that is one of them. Now, Dunsparce is the true definition of missed potential. What do I mean by that? I mean that Dunsparce has an amazing move pool. Like most normal types, it learns so many great moves. So versatile. And its ability is Serene Grace, which is even better. Like, to give you an example of what Serene Grace does, if you were to use Flamethrower, for example, you would double your chances of burning the opponent. If you use any move that has a secondary effect, you double your chances of it appearing. Dunsparce has so much going for it. The problem? Its stats are god-awful. They really are. Like, it's a shame. Dunsparce deserves an evolution so bad. if it did, this thing, if it just got better stats with an evolution, it would be a competitive masterpiece, for lack of a better term. It'd be such a good Pokemon. It's just such a shame that it got cheated out of being such a wonderful Pokemon, because it has so much missed potential. If you want to pick one up, remember that there's not that many normal types in Colosseum, so maybe you don't want to use a Furret, maybe you could try it out. I'm just going to warn you, even though it's got really great moves, it's going to be tough for you to use. Just be forewarned that Swablu is a normal flying type. It is not a dragon type like its evolution would have you think. So keep that in mind, that you will have to deal with it being a normal flying type for a little while, and that at this point, Noctowl's honestly kind of better for you right at this point. However, it's actually pretty good defensively and special defensively, a lot more than you'd expect. So if you're looking for something that can do that for you, it's actually not too bad. I can vouch for that, seeing as that the fact that I used a Swablu in my Emerald Let's Play, it actually served me quite well. I should also mention, though, that Swablu's got kind of a nice ability, Natural Cure. Well, it's not really the best ability for Double Battle, which is even more usable in Double Battles because you can swap out on one turn and then attack on the other, so swapping out is even more possible than normal, so you can heal status problems off of it. So, for those that want that in Swablu, it's kind of nice. Sing isn't exactly the best sleeping move, as you saw right there. It misses a lot, but it's kind of useful. It can have Sturdy or Rockhead for its ability. Rockhead will prevent flinching. I personally recommend... Well, actually, no, I'd recommend Rockhead, though, because this is... Remember, this is prior to Sturdy getting buffed. Sturdy later in the series got the ability to prevent being taken down in one hit instead of just outright preventing one KO move, so I'd go for Rockhead personally, even though flinching shouldn't happen all that often to it. It's a decent enough rock type. Again, Colosseum, like I've said many times, has limited options, so this is going to be probably the earliest decent rock type you're going to be able to get your hands on. It's got some interesting moves, it's pretty damn defensive, so those are mainly the roles that it's going to be fulfilling if you do grab it. This is a fighting type Pokemon, and it's much more attack oriented than Makuhita. However, oddly, it's special defense oriented for the most part, even though it's based on equilibrium. I'm not really sure why that is. But yeah, it's a really interesting fighting type. Another good reason to have it would be obviously the fact that it has Intimidate for its ability, which is fantastic to have in Double Battle. So if you're looking for a fighting type Pokemon that can do those jobs for you, it's good to have. And as you see there, its high special defense is quite good, considering that Espeon had a Twisted Spoon equipped and also got the same type attack bonus. So, Rui was saying we have a brave new addition to our team. How about we go check out this brave new addition to our team and go over it in a bio? Brave new addition to the team, my ass. Level 13 and has mediocre stats at best. To make matters worse, its ability is plus. There is no Pokemon in Colosseum with minus for its ability. And what's really bad is that this game is entirely double battles. Plusle could actually be kind of useful if there was a Pokemon with minus in the game and it was a decent level. But no, it's not. And you want to know what's even worse than that? Is that there is unused text in Colosseum that suggests that they had plans of putting a Shadow Mine in that you could snag in the game that would have very nicely complemented Plusle's abilities and made it awesome to use, because you don't really ever get to use Plusle in single player because games are primarily single battles. But right here, this is the greatest missed opportunity of all! You could have had Plusle and Minun rockin' everything! But no. Honestly, using this thing would be a challenge / chore, if anything. I suppose you could level it up quickly, considering the fact that it's level 13 and to be fighting stuff stronger than that, but I don't know why you'd want to. Entei is a very interesting Pokemon. It is HP and attack oriented, very different from most fire types. It might struggle to stand out a little bit in 3rd generation simply because of the physical special split not happening yet and fire being a special type. However, don't let that deter you from using Entei. It has the highest HP of any fire type Pokemon, period, which might make it attractive to some people. But yes, that is basically an overview of Entei. It also has the move Shadow Rush, Leer, Bite, and Fire Blast. Ledian! If you couldn't guess by the tone of my voice, Ledian is less than awesome by quite a bit. It's less than awesome and then some. It's a generic bug flying type with terrible stats, incredibly generic moves that really fail to make it stand out, and I have never liked this thing. On the plus side, it's a superhero, but I can't really think of any way to recommend this thing. There are much better bug types. Heck, even the bug types she's using that are not Shadow Pokemon have more potential than Ledian does. I'm not saying that it's unusable, But do you really want Comet Punch? I don't know. I can't really think of any particular reason why you'd want to grab Ledian over another bug type. Suicune! Ever since its introduction, Suicune has been a competitive god of sorts. Never tournament banned, but still really amazing defensively. This guy defines the term bulky water. And on top of that, it's not that bad at dealing damage, not doing other tactics either. When fighting it, it will have Shadow Rush, Gust, Leer, and Surf. If you have not picked up anything with Surf up to this point, and you've been wanting one, there's never been a better time to pick up a water type. Only lame thing about Suicune is that a lot of its appeal comes from the fact that it's one of the best users of Calm Mind, which unfortunately it does not learn in this game until level 81. You wanna know what makes things worse? TM for Calm Mind is not in Pokemon Colosseum. Gligar is interesting. It is a flying ground type, so very interesting type. Immunity to ground and electric, which is very out there, I suppose. But in all seriousness, Gligar has some interesting moves such as Slash that you're not really going to find on too many other Pokemon. So maybe if it's got some moves, it's got some interesting starting moves in Colosseum. So if there's any moves on it that look appealing to you, you'd be hard-pressed to find those moves elsewhere. So it might be kind of cool to you. Only downside is Gligar does not evolve in Colosseum. It's a shame. If Glysaur was in this game, I would highly recommend grabbing it, but unfortunately you're kind of doomed to mediocre stats. Because it doesn't evolve. But hey, maybe you still want to pick it up. Stantler! This Pokemon is interesting. Normally, I would say it's incredibly mediocre, and you really shouldn't bother with it because there's much better normal types. And even in Colosseum, yes, honestly, I find Furret to be more useful than I find this to be. But I can't really say as much mean stuff about Stantler as I normally would because A, it's got Intimidate, which not too many Pokemon in Colosseum do, and that's a fantastic ability for double battles especially. Lowering both your opponent's attack stats, that makes up for its kind of lackluster defenses. Not only that, but it has Hypnosis in its starting move pool. That's really useful in a game where you're snagging a lot of Pokemon all the time. So, honestly, Stantler, while it's not the greatest normal type, I can be a bit nicer to it than I ever have been and say that it does have some interesting options if you want to grab it. I mean, having both Hypnosis and Intimidate covered in one Pokemon is nothing to sneeze at in a game that's entirely double battles where you're catching a lot of Pokemon all the time. Piloswine is, well, it's interesting. Ice and Ground type. Ice is the worst defensive type. It is individually, Ice is weak to more types than any other type. However, Ground's kind of nice, giving it, you know, an immunity to Electric, although it does grant it a weakness to Water that it wouldn't have otherwise. It's meant to be more bulky, kind of like defensive and offensive. And, unfortunately, it does not evolve into Mamoswine in this game. Mamoswine did not exist when Colosseum was released. So it's another case of something that I think could be really nice to pick up if it evolved, but unfortunately it doesn't, so it's not really a Pokemon that I pay much attention to. Plus, on top of that, there is another Ice type coming right up immediately after this fight if you want to weigh your options with that one as well. Sneasel! It is a very offensive Ice type. Unfortunately, does not evolve in Pokemon Colosseum. If it did, I would seriously suggest that you pick it up, because if it evolved, you would have one of the best sweepers in the game. Aside from that, it does its job pretty decent. It comes with Screech, as you see right there, which is a pretty good move to have for a physical attacker. Only downside is that, well, Ice is a special attack in this game, so it doesn't get you benefits from Ice moves. You know, just because good moves for supporting it didn't exist, but hey, if you want something to do a lot of physical damage quickly, it's decent. Aipom, a Shadow Pokemon. This is another case of a Pokemon that I would highly recommend if it evolved. It's a shame that it doesn't, because Ambipom is a fantastic Pokemon, but unfortunately this one does not evolve in this game. Aipom is kind of a less than awesome normal type. It's definitely, I would say, the weakest of the normal types that you get in here, because I at least was able to think of redeeming qualities for Stantler. But for this one, I can't really think of much to say about it, really. It's just really generic. Didn't have much that set it apart until it got an evolution, of course, and that evolution just doesn't really seem to exist here. Doesn't really have any outstanding moves that you can get in other normal types like Strength, doesn't have Intimidate. I don't know, maybe you can think of some use for it, but I'm just not seeing one right away, so there's better normal types even with Colosseum's limited options. Murkrow is another case of a Pokemon that I think would be better if it evolved in this game, but unfortunately Honchkrow did not exist when Colosseum was released. It's an interesting Pokemon to say the least. It is dark and flying, so physical and special, since dark used to be special, at least when this game came out it was. So it's... yeah, I can't really say one way or the other if I necessarily like that about it or not. It does have Fly, you know, it does have an HM move in a game that doesn't have HMs normally obtainable within it, so maybe that appeals to you, maybe it doesn't. As see there, it did outspeed my Typhlosion, so perhaps maybe you might like its speed. I don't recall it being particularly fast, but I could be wrong, but you can check for yourself how fast it is on screen, and wow, it missed! But yeah, Murkrow's just kind of one of those... Are you serious, Insomnia? Murkrow's just one of those Pokemon that I tend to not think about a whole lot, just because it was kind of painfully average before it evolved, but, you know... Want a dark type for your team. I suppose it's getting to be kind of late in the adventure, and maybe you might want to pick something up like that. I don't know. Fortress! Saying this straight up, if you want a wall in Pokemon Colosseum, this is the best you're going to do. Fortress is a Pokemon that is meant strictly to wall. It has very little offensive capabilities. At least in this game. So moves such as Trick Room and Power Trick and stuff like that didn't exist at this time. It is strictly a wall, and as such, you might think it's bad for single player, but remember, you do have 2 Pokemon out at a time, meaning that you can, indeed, have a wall out and see some use out of it. It's got some interesting moves like Spikes, and can be used for some really nice utility-like purposes, I suppose is the best way I can put it. Ariados! This is a Shadow Pokemon that I really think should have been given to you when you fought that, Cypher Peon back in the Under. I don't know why they did it this way, but hey, and oh, Hyper Mode. First time we've seen that in a while. Brings back memories of Pirate Coliseum. But anyway, Ariados is a Poison Bug type. You know that I generally like Poison types quite a bit, and that, you know, I think they're kind of underrated, that I do like Poison status, I do like resistance to fighting. I do like a lot of little things about Poison types. Plus, I generally like their abilities. I mean, Poison Point's really mean. Toxic Spike is a fantastic move, even though it's not in this game. And Ariados, it's kind of a general Poison type. I think there are better around here, but I think you can find better in this game. But hey, maybe you might want to pick one up if you have still not picked up a Poison type yet and you've wanted one for a while. Granbull! This is an interesting Shadow Pokemon. Once again, most of the normal types in Colosseum I find are pretty interesting. Granbull is basically having that Furret early in the game with Strength, combined with Stantler having Intimidate with a much beefier attack stat. And because of that, I'm gonna say that I would go on the record saying that out of the Pokemon that you could realistically use and purify in the main story, Granbull is probably the best of the normal types in Pokemon Colosseum. That is... honestly, no, I will go out and say that out of anything that you can realistically use in the main story, I think there is one more normal type, but we don't get it until the final area, and it's like the third to last battle in the game that we get it in. So I'm going to consider that not realistic to be used and purified in the main story, so yeah. Out of any normal type we've seen so far, Granbull is probably your best option. It is awesome having Intimidate in a regular battle, having Strength to start off, and then once you get its happiness up with you, you can just delete Strength and give it Return, which is 102 power with same type attack bonus. Vibrava is a Dragon Ground type, very interesting type, and you see it's level 43, meaning that it only needs 2 levels to evolve into the almighty Flygon, and why the heck do I have Umbreon at the beginning of my party? Ugh. So, if you want to have an awesome Dragon type, awesome, I'm gurgling for some reason, this could be your guy. Not many Dragon types in Colosseum. I think Swablu is actually your only other option to get into Altaria, and Vibrava is, now swapping between pronunciations, is only 2 levels away, and you just got 3 rare candies from Venus, so if you're going to use Vibrava on your team, you can always have saved those rare candies and use them right now just to get an easy, you know, Flygon. It's pretty cool. Raikou is a fast special attacker. It's pretty much as simple as that. He plays very similarly to Jolteon. He's not quite as fast as Jolteon, but he packs more of a punch. He comes knowing Shadow Rush, Leer, Quick Attack, and Thunder. Shadow Rush will become Rain Dance when purified. Its main strategy is that it's going to try to benefit from the rain that Ein is putting out onto the battlefield, and then follow up by using Thunder because it has 100% accuracy in rain. And when you get one for yourself, you can do just the same on your team. Because of this, it is an extreme powerhouse character, and is probably the most usable of the 3 legendary beasts that you can obtain in Colosseum. But Suicune is still a valuable part of any team, so I'm not knocking Suicune, don't worry. I'm also not knocking Entei. They're all good for their own reasons, but I find Raikou personally the most helpful because it's much easier to get a Rain Dance out because there's a TM for it in the game, and these are double battles. Sunflora. This thing is... it's a grass type. It has grass moves. My problem with it is that it's so slow and really frail that it has a really hard time holding its own no matter where I seem to use it. I've never really known much of anyone to use Sunflora. I've tried using them in single-player experiences before, and I never really liked them. Plus, I don't think I've ever seen one used competitively, even back when I used to play tournaments. Delibird, Shadow Pokemon! This is a flying Ice-type Pokemon, but honestly, I don't know why you'd ever want it. It is abysmal in terms of stats, really shallow move pool. I don't know, maybe you could think of a reason why it would be useful, but personally, I don't see one even for Colosseum's limited options, because I guess even Sneasel, like with it not having that great of moves to promote being an Ice-type before the physical special split, I don't know, I can think of more things that Sneasel can do, because Delibird, I mean, it's doing Attract right here, it's got Present as well, I don't know. I'm not really sure, I can't really think of much about it. Heracross! This thing, if you have only 5 members of your team and you're looking for a 6th, and you want something that can deal out a lot of damage, this is your guy! Heracross is a beast! One of the best physical attackers in the entire game. Unfortunately, it does not yet know close combat because 4th generation hasn't happened yet at this point in the series. So that kind of sucks though, but it's got some great moves like Reversal and Brick Break in its starting moveset, so you can't really fault there. Plus, it's a few levels away from learning Mega Horn. I believe level 52 is what you need to get it to. So if you're willing to train a little bit, maybe you might want to pick up Heracross before doing those stadium challenges that I did. Yeah. I can't really say anything but good about it. Guts is a fantastic ability as well, especially for an attacker. So yeah, Skarmory is interesting. It's a wall, even though it doesn't look like one based on its design. But unlike Fortress, it's able to do other things than just wall. It has a fantastic immunity to ground, which is great for any wall, definitely, with how good of a move Earthquake is. And on top of this, you also have the fact that it doesn't have to, worry about having a lot of... It doesn't have to, You also have the fact that it has other options besides just walling. It's not bad at doing damage either, and it can take out, you know, fighting types with flying moves, it can take out rock types with steel moves. It can do a lot of things that most steel types just don't really have the luxury of doing, and if you're looking for a wall that can do other things besides just defend, unlike my Fortress, it's a little tiny bit squishier than my Fortress, but it more than makes up for it in other things that it can do besides just being a defensive wall. So, for that reason, Skarmory, I feel like, is a fantastic last Pokemon for us to catch before going up there to fight Nascur. So, I'm not going to use it on my team, but I highly, highly would recommend using it on your team if you don't already have a 6th member by this point, which you should. But just in case you don't, Skarmory is there to get your back. Plus, it's level 42. You can't really argue with that level for this late in the game. Miltank, which is a bulky normal type. Surprisingly fast, though. At this point, it's kind of too late to pick up team members because we are outright in the final area, but I still will go over exactly like what it's capable of just in case. Miltank, like I said, is surprisingly fast for how bulky it is. And it's one of the better normal types you can obtain. Personally, I prefer Gramble, but if you're looking to obtain a normal type still, Miltank is still pretty good, and it's definitely faster than Gramble is, but it doesn't have that massive attack stat that Gramble does. So it does different things, but I still like it quite a bit. Absol, as I showed in my Pokemon Emerald Let's Play, is an interesting Pokemon. It's a would-be fantastic Pokemon if not for its type. The Dark type, especially before Diamond and Pearl, when this physical special split happened, does not do it any favors at all. It really doesn't. It's a shame, but it has an amazing attack stat. It would have a lot of options available to it if it just weren't for its type. Dark being a special type prior to the physical special split, and the fact that Dark is also the weakest type offensively with the move Crunch, and on top of that, it can't even learn Crunch. So you have a Pokemon that just has a type that's doing it no favors whatsoever. Shadow Ball is the closest thing that you're going to get to a same type attack bonus from it. And, like, to a good physical same type attack bonus, because remember, Ghost was a physical type back then. It just, like I said, it's a would-be fantastic Pokemon, and I proved that it's usable in my Emerald Let's Play. I like it a lot. I'm not going to hate on it. But just be wary that you have to deal with the fact that you're held back by your type quite a bit. Houndoom, who is a pretty decent special attacker, not gonna lie. It gets better later on when moves like Dark Pulse get introduced in Diamond and Pearl, but, you know, even though it didn't exist here, it's still a pretty dang good Pokemon. It's, doesn't really get to take advantage of that Dark type all that well, but, you know, if you want to have something to do special attack damage, it's pretty good. Tropius is a Shadow Pokemon. It is a Grass Flying type, which is indeed a very unique type, and it's just, I don't know. It's great for teaching it a lot of HM moves, like Tropius can learn a lot more HM moves than you think it could, but HM moves aren't exactly important in Colosseum. And, yeah, I don't know why, it's just that I've never personally been a huge Tropius fan. It's not bad, it's just that I've never been a huge fan of it personally. That's just kind of how I've always been. Metagross, Steel Psychic type, level 50, clear-bodied for the ability, stats cannot be lowered. Shadow Rush, Iron Defense, Metal Claw, and Psychic. This is also, of course, a Shadow Pokemon. When snagging it, it holds the Metal Coat, which can be used to evolve Scyther into Scizor. It is a very interesting Pokemon. This thing's Metal Coat will also raise the power of Metal Claw when you are fighting against it. I should also warn you that this thing works very well as a mixed attacker. I really can't say enough good about Metagross. It's also a fantastic Pokemon if you can teach it agility. It can become a very dangerous sweeper, and it has defensive capabilities as well. This thing is arguably the best non-tournament banned Pokemon that was introduced in Ruby and Sapphire. I can't say enough good about it. Tyranitar! This is the ultimate Shadow Pokemon that Ein created. Level 55, Rock Dark type. Sandstream for the ability. Just it being on the field will cause sandstorms. This thing is really dangerous from that. Shadow Rush, Thunder, Rock Slide, Blizzard, and as you see there, it was able to take out Affection solely from that sandstorm. So it was able to finish the job that Scizor put down on it. So that's kind of scary. Smeargle is quite possibly the most unique Pokemon that was introduced in 2nd generation. It is simultaneously has the biggest moveset of any Pokemon and the smallest. Smeargle only learns one attack, Sketch. What does Sketch do? It allows it to steal an attack permanently from the opponent, or rather copy it, not necessarily steal it. And because of that, he has given it Double Slap. Yeah, wonderful. But all in all, Smeargle, while it has crummy stats, if there is a strategy you can dream up, Smeargle is capable of doing it. There is absolutely no limits when you are working with a Smeargle. It can do anything. The sky is the limit with Smeargle. If you can find a Pokemon in the game that has the move that you want, just go battle it. It's especially helpful when items like the Versus Seeker exist and all that stuff, as well as Match Call and all that kind of stuff, because you can just look up the movesets online of various AI team members to find exactly what you want. I think there might be a database or two on the internet that does tell you easy locations to get moves for Smeargle, but God, I remember people in tournaments that could use Smeargle so well. There are people that would give it like Dark Void and like double battle tournaments and that kind of stuff. It was crazy. Granted, that is an inescapable breaking of Sleep Claws for some, but God, like, I saw Smeargles with, well, probably the best move to give Smeargle actually would be Spore. Spore is a 100 accuracy sleeping move that only the Paris family can learn normally, but of course Smeargle can learn any move, so there you go. It's really, really cool. I like Smeargle a lot. The only downside about training a Smeargle is sometimes you gotta save reset to get what you want, but hey, hardly a complaint when you're working in a main series game and you can just save before battling any trainer. Not like this game, where you can't do that. Ursaring! It's... For those that watch the anime, you know that they use it all the time in all kinds of gags and all that, but in the games, but we're talking about the games here. It is a very strong attacker. Nothing else to it. Its primary methods of fighting are that it has a 130 attack stat, and it could potentially have guts for its ability. Actually, no, it outright does have guts for its ability in this game. I forgot Quick Feet didn't exist yet. So, if you can get a status infliction on it and then just attack like nuts, that's typically where it shines. The downside is that it's very slow, and it's not perfect in the defensive way, in defensive ways. For a normal type in general, it's pretty dang slow. It's not like Snorlax slow, but it's close. And for that reason, it can be kind of tough to handle. It's not impossible, mind you, but it can be a little tough. Shuckle is quite possibly the best mixed wall in the entire game. It has roughly 230 on both of its defense. However, It's strictly a wall. It is probably the only wall you're going to find anywhere in Colosseum that is better than Fortress. But this thing is strictly a wall. You can't do much else with it. Especially not in Generation 3. You get some better moves later on, but for the time being, only use this if you want an amazing wall for these last few battles that you're going to be conducting in Colosseum, because we're near the end of the game here too, so keep that in mind. Togetic. The final Shadow Pokemon of all is really not all that great. It's a normal flying type with a few interesting options. I mean, it's got Sweet Kiss, it's got Charm. You know, a little interesting, I suppose, in those respects. But it's not until it got its evolution of Togekiss in Generation 4 that it became a real threat. So, in its current state, it might not be anything special, but if you can purify it and you can transfer it over to another game, well, there you go. You have yourself one of the best tanks that competitive battling has ever seen, as well as some really cool options for moves like Aura Sphere, which did not exist at this point in the series. Unfortunately, mine seems to have Hustle. Serene Grace is definitely the better of the two abilities. Instead of lowering your accuracy for power, you have a higher chance of, you know, getting secondary effects to activate when using moves like Flamethrower for burn and that kind of stuff. For snagging every Shadow Pokemon, purifying every Shadow Pokemon, and for clearing Mount Battle, or should I say, Mount Hassle! Been waiting to say that. You get yourself the ultimate reward of Pokemon Colosseum for getting 100%. Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is kind of weird in terms of stat distribution. Its biggest stats are attack and special defense. I don't get it either. But that doesn't change the fact that Ho-Oh is a really good Pokemon. As you can see, all of its stats are off the charts. They are ridiculous. They really 106 HP, 130 attack, 90 defense, 110 special attack, 154 special defense. Do I really have to say anything more about this thing? It wrecks things up. And on top of that, it is pretty much the ultimate enemy of any ice type, not only because it's a fire type, but due to the simple fact that it's the only Pokemon that learns Sacred Fire. If Ho-Oh is ever frozen, it will auto-defrost itself when using Sacred Fire, will attack the enemy in the same turn, and also has a 50% chance of burning. My only real complaint about Ho-Oh is that it's got kind of a bad type. It can be tough to use, especially in newer games with the advent of Stealth Rock.